My cousin tried stealing my jacket. One detail ended the debate. A few months ago, my cousin asked to borrow my favorite jacket for a work event. It's not designer, but it's one of those pieces that looks expensive because it fits perfectly, and it has history. I found it years ago. Had the sleeves tailored, replaced the buttons, and I sew a tiny cloth label inside my nicer stuff because I'm forgetful, and I've had clothes vanish at gatherings before. My cousin promised it would be one night. No food, no smoke. She'd hang it up, she'd drop it off the next day. You can probably guess where this is going. Next day, OMG, I forgot. I'll bring it next week. Next week, I'm out of town. Then she started getting snippy, like I was annoying her by wanting my own thing back. 2 weeks later, I see a photo of her on social media wearing my jacket with a caption like, "New staple, obsessed," and people in the comments asking where she got it. She replied, "Vintage find," with a little sparkle emoji. I texted her, polite at first, like, "Hey, that's mine, please bring it back." She responded with, "LOL, it's literally just a jacket," and then tried the gaslight special. She said maybe we have similar ones. And anyway, she doesn't remember borrowing it, and I'm making drama over nothing. It made me feel kind of stupid because it's a jacket, but also, it's my jacket, and she was acting like I was crazy for noticing, so I stopped arguing. I waited. My aunt hosted a small family get-together a couple weeks later. Not a big dinner, just coffee and desserts and people passing a baby around. My cousin showed up wearing the jacket again, like she was daring me. I did the sweetest voice I could manage and said, "That looks really good on you. Where did you end up getting it? I love that cut." She smiled and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Right? I scored it ages ago, I just never wore it." Perfect. I walked over and said, "No way, can I see the inside? I did a little repair on mine, and I'm curious if it's the same." She got tense and tried to step back, but I lightly pinched the inner seam near the collar and flipped it open. There it was, my little cloth label, stitched in crooked the way I always do it, my first name and the year. I didn't yank it or make a scene. I just turned to my aunt and said, "Calm as anything?" "Oh good, it is mine." I'm so relieved, I thought I lost it. The room went quiet in that very specific way family rooms go quiet. My cousin's face went red, then she laughed too hard and said I was embarrassing her. I said, "You embarrassed yourself when you decided keeping it was easier than returning it." Then I took it off her chair, put it on, and went back to the kitchen like it was the most normal thing in the world. She tried to follow me and whisper, "Fight," but my aunt cut her off and asked why she'd lie about something so small. Cousin left early, slammed the door, and later texted me that I'm petty and I care more about stuff than family. I told her I care about basic respect. The best part is she can't even spin it online now because if anyone asks about that vintage find, she has to remember it had my name sewn into it the whole time. Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me. I worked at a company that gave out exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25 plus years received 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time. This was a family-owned company, but rather large. We ran 3 shifts, totaling 250 plus people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20. Now he was 63 and gave absolutely zero shits. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product. Him and one other higher up in the office. One day, the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks and do completely away with personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. They then go into the office and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup. But they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved, you can just call in and take it. Jimmy is pissed, and they know it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now. So they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in the first training day for the new hire and lets us know he's going to use all of his PTO at once and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had a backstock of parts he had made, so it wasn't too unnerving. But for 10 weeks, Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks, it's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days, they try calling him and even go to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Finally, on day 3, he calls and resigns, and they lose their shit. The parts he makes are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come in and teach some new hires how to make them. And when he found out what all they had done, it pissed him off. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach them how to produce the parts, and they had to pony up or close down. "Your son will take your throne," they spat through clenched teeth as if it were a curse. "You're baffled. He's your chosen heir. Isn't that the point?" I opened the door to my son's room. When I stepped forward, I heard something snap. The suit of armor next to the door fell axe first. I leapt backwards as it collapsed to the ground, shattering into pieces. "Oh, crap," Jacob said. "Indeed." I walked into the room. Jacob was sitting next by his wardrobe with a distressed look on his face. I shook my head. "I told you that suit of armor was dangerous. Very dangerous." Jacob's face twisted into something that I would say is disappointment on someone else. Experience with his mother taught me that it was regret. "Do not worry. I will have the armorer fix it. I will have it moved to a less threatening position. I know how you liked imagining it was guarding you," I said. "Yes, father," he replied. "Anyway, I came here to ask if you wanted to come riding with me." I smiled. "May we hunt?" he asked. I shook my head. "We do not have the time for that. I have a meeting with my advisors later," I said. "Will drinks be served?" Jacob asked. "Of course," I said. "May I accompany you?" "Son, you are much too young for libations. I enjoy being in the room of power." Jacob smiled. I chuckled. "You will be a good king someday," I said. He muttered something under his breath. "What was that?" "Not as good as you." Our ride went smoothly. The creek provided a soothing rhythm. The flowers were in bloom. My horse almost ran off a cliff, but I recovered. Later, I was in the room with my advisors. Jacob sat next to me. I saw him reaching for my cup and grabbed it. "You can't have some," I said. Jacob huffed. "Now let's get get to business. How are taxes? I asked. Revenue is going well. We should be able to finance the repair of the port, the tax collector said. Jacob reached again, and I pulled away. How about farm yields? It was a good harvest, my advisor said. I moved the drink away from my son and drank it in one gulp. Jacob looked disappointed again. What about the other nobles? I asked. They are loyal, but there is talk of them pledging their loyalty to an unknown rival, Sir Ist said. Who? I asked. That is unclear, Sir Ist said. I noticed my son sweating out of the corner of my eye. Keep an eye on the situation, I said. The rest of the meeting went well. After dinner, I lay by the fireplace with my wife and son. Helena never spoke to me since he was born. Her lady-in-waiting said it was due to not wanting to confuse Jacob. I had no idea how that was possible, but I accepted her word. Son, I put my hand on his shoulder. I saw you sweat today. It was hot, he replied. That's not it. You were worried about the rival. Do not worry. I am alert and aware of my surroundings. I will live a long life, I said. Let's hope. Jacob's voice trailed off oddly. Your destiny has already been foretold. When you were born, an oracle told me you would take the throne from me. They said it in a bitter tone that confused me. I believe that is oracle's natural state, I said. They are confusing people. Jacob grabbed the poker and stirred the fire. He paused for a moment with the poker in his hand. He turned to look at me. His eyes found my guards, and he dropped the bar. Yes, some of their predictions end up being wrong. Not to worry, though. You will inherit a great bounty, I said. I know. The fire casted shadows across his face, giving him a sinister visage. I know. I got my classmate to fail on purpose. I'm in college for a very difficult dual degree. I am also on a stipend and need good grades or I will lose my money. Since I am estranged from my family and disabled, I absolutely need this money to study. My current grades are my country's equivalent of a perfect A, and I intend to keep it that way. This semester's final was a group project, which is already bad enough. We had to write an essay about a topic of our choosing that's relevant to our field of study, create a scientific poster, give a 30-minute presentation on it, and afterwards get quizzed on the topic. We had 6 weeks to finish this. I landed in a group of 3 with cool guy who's engaged and puts in effort, and guy who was lazy from day one. At the start, we created a schedule, and clearly divided our tasks with check-in days to keep track of what we're all doing. First check-in day, he showed up late and forgot his laptop. Second check-in day, he didn't show up at all. We needed some data he was supposed to have analyzed and compiled, but he kept saying he'd sent that tomorrow or he's almost done. When he pressured him on it, he finally told us that he has done absolutely nothing so far, and then had the audacity to tell us he won't do it either. He told me to my face that he doesn't care about this grade since you can fail 3 finals and still pass. He fully intended to just write off our work, and if he fails, he doesn't care. I tried explaining to him that it's cool if he doesn't care, but it's a shared grade, and him not doing any work means I fail too, and if I fail, I lose my stipend. His answer? Well, it's not my problem that you're broke. Well, if that's how you want to play it, sure. So I sat down with cool guy to create a plan. We kept our scheduled check-in days, but didn't remind his day off, and of course he forgot about them. We worked on the entire project together, created a dope poster, just generally did our best work, and didn't tell him about any of it. I did all the research and wrote his part while cool guy compiled all the data of our interviews and made the poster. We planned our part of the presentation together and are very ready for the quiz portion. We also talked to our professor and showed him proof of him straight up refusing to work and no showing to planned meetups. Professor told us to mark what part of the project each person did, and he'd make an exception for our group and grade each person's work individually. Now it's one day before the presentation and he texted the group chat asking what he's supposed to talk about. I simply wrote, as agreed, before the project. Everyone talks about what they wrote in the essay. He then started to panic and asked what he was supposed to say, since all he wrote was half a page of poorly compiled date that turned out to be wrong. I told him tough luck, and to figure it out, he had enough time to think about that. Since he never brought his laptop to any meetups, he also has no access to the shared files and can't improvise anything either. The presentation is tomorrow in front of our whole class and the professor. Watching him utterly embarrass himself is going to be fun. Update: we held the presentation in front of the class and 2 professors. I had to go first because of how our topics got divided and said my part. I did the introduction, talked about my research, and gave the other 2 a nice point to jump off of. He went second, and all he did was repeat what I said and ramble until his 10 minutes were over. He added absolutely nothing new, and just read some numbers off the poster. Most of his speaking time was padded with furthermore and so on, and yes so. It was absolutely painful to watch. Cool guy went last, but because he already read off the stats he was supposed to present, it really hurt the flow, because cool guy added all the context. During the questioning round, I answered all the questions directed at me, and when he got asked, he answered that's part of OP's research every single time, even though it wasn't. Because I at least read the whole thing, I still knew all the answers, and him not knowing anything made me look even better. We get the grades in a few weeks, but so far it looks like I will at least get something passable, while he didn't even fill the minimum requirements. All in all, it was just painfully awkward, and I wished I could leave and disappear the entire time.